Welcome to the Sensory and Power podcast. I'm Bethany, your host. I'm a holistic occupational therapist with over a decade of experience in supporting individuals helping to transform their world through sensory empowerment. This podcast is your guide to the transformative world of sensory storytelling, holistic tools, and empowerment strategies. So excited to talk about something that I am deeply embodying, especially today on a day where I am getting lots of opportunities to go be in nature and be in a garden and pick berries and, surround myself with the intrigue of bugs and being around bugs. So I welcome you to this really fun podcast. This one's going to be a very personal one, as I am very much a sensory seeker. So today we're going to talk about exploring just some holistic tools of how we can start to focus on sensory seeking. So if we're needing more information from our world like I do, I need a lot of deep pressure input. I need a lot of oral motor, so I'm using a straw frequently, or crunching on crunchy food, or really sour foods are really great for my system. Carrot sticks, dried mangoes, things like that I really gravitate to as like sensory snacks. And I'm currently trying to figure out how to make my own healthy gummies with like tart cherry juice and citric acid with like a little bit of cane sugar, just to try to, I love DIY, and summertime is delightful for practicing some of those opportunities to do DIY. So I've been trying to figure out how to come up with making my own sensory snacks. And so this is just kind of a fun episode where I'm just going to share a little bit more about like the curiosities of a world of a sensory seeker. I've had some really fun opportunities lately to discuss from a sensory seeker's point of view to a parent who might be more of the sensory avoiding, what their child, who also presents as a sensory seeker, might be going throughout the day. And some of the really beautiful shares that I've had from a few parents recently is just this realization and awareness and gratitude to be able to see it from this sensory lens of, no, those aren't things that they're doing on purpose. Their system is needing just more input throughout their day. So we're going to go ahead and discuss like some grounding techniques, breathing techniques, and then like heavy work. So either oral motor or muscle heavy work activities that can help a sensory seeker like myself meet that neurological threshold and then really promote that sensory regulation. We've categorized the information. We've hit that threshold to where we're at that optimal state of arousal level, which helps us stay creative and stay focused and stay grounded. So let's go ahead and take a deep breath together. We're going to go ahead and practice a grounding technique. So if this is something that you're doing while you are driving, please just kind of fast forward or just kind of listen in, but don't maybe tap into this meditative state that I'm going to offer. We're going to go ahead and journey in together into a really beautiful grounding technique, very mindful technique called the 5-4-3-2-1 method. And so as we prepare for this, starting to maybe slow your body down if you're moving a lot, maybe see if you can come and bring in a little bit of stillness, and bringing in a sense of curiosity as we go into this exercise. And just noticing 5 things that you can see. So your eyes are open, looking around the room. You can shout out loud if you'd like to, or speak out loud, or just say in your head, naming 5 things in your environment. And just noticing here, your eyes moving around the room. We're going to shift into identifying 4 things that you can touch. So feeling the textures around your body, maybe noticing or squeezing your hair, Noticing your clothing, maybe on your shirt or your pants or shorts. Bringing awareness to the chair and the texture of the chair. And then noticing the texture of the floor beneath your feet. Identifying these 4 things that you can touch. And then bringing awareness to 3 things that you can hear. Tuning in to sounds of your environment now. And just bringing in curiosity, if you're inside or outside, listening for 3 things you can hear. And then bringing awareness to your nose now. Notice 2 things that you can smell. Go ahead and take a deep breath in and see if you can identify 2 different scents around you. And finally, bringing awareness to your mouth. See if you can notice 1 thing you can taste. This could be a lingering meal, flavor, or simply the freshness of the air around you. So this is a very beautiful technique. You can start to kind of come back in and just notice if you feel any shifts in your body. If you've slowed your body movements, maybe you need a little bit of rolling of your neck, maybe a little bit of self-massage, and just coming back to this focus moment together. And in such a fun, curious way, thinking about how this can provide like a pretty cool structured way to engage with your senses. So again, it was that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. So you can play around with that and maybe try it indoors and outdoors and just kind of notice if you're starting to get, revved up with larger emotions or just feeling like you really just need a chill pause moment. That can be a really supportive tool, especially if our system is just needing more and we're feeling like we're not able to fill up our cups just yet. So that can be a way to kind of help nourish and bring in some additional feedback to your system. So the next thing I really want to talk about is just a breathing technique. It is called box breathing, and this can be a really powerful tool for anyone on the whole sensory threshold. Of course, all of these tools are very supportive. I'm just explaining these specific tools in the reference point of sensory seeking and helping to regulate the nervous system if we're not quite at that threshold level yet. So these can maybe start to fill up that cup and help meet that level. Sometimes these can be very powerful tools, and very frequently I'm coaching clients who more present with a sensory sensitive or sensory avoiding sensory profile on using these tools to calm and regulate and ground in those heightened moments. If we're overstimulated, these are also very powerful tools. These are just kind of helpful to just recalibrate back to that baseline, to that window of tolerance that's allowing us to be very engaged. And I don't know, I really enjoy these tools for my own nervous system. They've been really supportive, so I wanted to share them. So breathing techniques with box breathing is the next thing we'll practice. And this is a fun one. We're going to do an inhale, hold, exhale, hold. So kind of visualize a box where we have an arrow pointing up. We have an arrow moving over on that horizontal over. That's that hold piece. If you are uncomfortable at all with a breath hold, and I've kind of talked through this with the sensory self-care membership community of we're always finding the breath that is going to support your system. So if you have practiced in the past a short breath hold and it brings in adrenaline or nervousness or a sense of anxiety, that might not be your technique. So these are just, again, always just going at your flow, inviting a curiosity of a practice here. So one that we can kind of dive in, but please keep tabs on your system, especially your heart rate. So inviting in that beautiful curiousness and interoceptive awareness of your heart rate and maybe what your system is needing as we start to go through this method, a very simple yet very effective method called box breathing. So here's how you do it. You take a big deep inhale through your nose for a count of 4. And then you're going to hold that breath at that top. So your lungs are really full. You're noticing maybe that expansion of your lungs and your chest for a count of 4. And then slowly exhaling. So visualizing we're now headed down the box on the right-hand side. Exhaling through your mouth for a count of 4. And then removing across to complete the box shape. Moving over and breathing again in that hold position at the bottom of your exhale for a count of 4. So let's practice it together, breathing in through your nose, holding, exhale slowly through your mouth, and holding at the bottom of your exhale for 4. Good, and you can start to practice this cycle maybe 3 or 4 times. I'm just going to do it once as the example, but I would love to know if you have found a different shift after you do it a couple more times. If there's a sweet spot of how many in a row. I think when I practice alternating nostril breath, I regularly recognize a shift after about 8. So doing that full pattern of moving from left nostril to right nostril, I feel like once I do a pattern of 8, I really start to feel a huge shift in my body. And so this is really a very powerful technique. It can help calm the mind, reduce anxiety, reduce sensory overwhelm, start to just regulate your system back to that optimal level of alertness, and really can help to provide a sense of control. You're able to pause and then decide what is next. The power of the pause. The next few things that I want to talk about is heavy work. Our beautiful proprioceptive system is in our inner joints and in our tendons, and every time we have feedback with pushing, pulling, or lifting, we're getting either this elongation or this contraction of muscles or joints, which sends that signal to our brain, letting us know where we are in space. So proprioception is really all about body awareness, helping us get really in tune with where we are in space in relation to others, ourselves, and things in our environment. Helps us figure out how much power to use for force modulation, and can be like a fabulous activity to help ground the nervous system and provide a lot of beautiful feedback to help meet that movement need. And I definitely experience sensory seeking, especially with movement. So a lot of things that I do throughout the day, I'm just going to kind of talk through some of the heavy work activities that really help me feel connected to my body, helping with body awareness, and really helping to kind of meet that input. So a few examples that I love is just thinking about heavy objects, carrying heavy objects. These might be when you're doing household chores, so I vacuum. And I'm always visualizing that joint pull push together. Lots and lots of input with things like carrying groceries, especially down the stairs. Being able to kind of carry my backpack around if I'm going to go work with a client and a family. I've got a backpack filled with all sorts of fun things, so visualizing this is my grounding, I feel it on my shoulders, kind of turn it into a mindful moment as I put the backpack on my shoulders. Some other things we're thinking about is anytime we need to move furniture or do deep cleaning, we're getting that really beautiful pushing or pulling input. I do a lot of gardening, so that kind of like digging, scooping, lifting, bags of soil, dumping, those sorts of things. All of that really beautiful input. Some other things that I catch myself doing is either swinging or jumping. So I have a swing chair, and I notice I'll kind of do this like swing where I feel this deep pressure grounding, and I'll kind of like tap my feet. So I'm getting that kind of joint compression as I tap my feet, but then getting also some vestibular input, that very calming input in our inner ear, which can be very grounding. If there's opportunities for a trampoline or a rebounder, like those little mini tramps, those are so fun. Jumping jacks, if you don't have one, just ways to kind of increase that heart rate, get some cardiovascular exercise, but also get a lot of beautiful heavy work. Really, really can be very powerful for sensory seekers to kind of blast through that energy, release it, and then be able to improve sleep. Some other things that have been really helpful as I've kind of, played with different exercises and activities, yoga, Pilates, and resistance exercises. So that might be wall push-ups or yoga plank positions through chaturanga push-ups, lifting weights, using resistant bands, and just kind of noticing that tightness and that looseness of the muscle. So these can be really, really cool strategies to kind of just help sensory seekers and anyone else, but specific to this episode, how a sensory seeker can feel more grounded and balanced and really improve the ability to focus and manage sensory input, because we're meeting that threshold. We're getting so much more input to help fill up that cup, help us feel in tune and engaged. So as we've dove into some really fun activities, talking about some things that I have really noticed can make a significant difference for sensory seekers, I always love to just share that we're always going to have different days. So I'm always chatting with my clients about, if we've woken up and we are maybe like not sleeping really great, or temperature is off for some reason, or they're just emotions, there might be something we're processing, something we're working on releasing. There might be big changes in your overall preference for the day, and those are days where we might just need a little bit less input and maybe more grounding feedback versus like trampoline jumps, right? Or jumping jacks. So there is always this tuning into your body and what it's needing, what it's asking for. And I think these are just some examples of kind of finding that right combination of tools that can work for you. That is really what I love coaching on, is supporting clients to go through this kind of questioning of curiosity and sensory education pieces to help you feel like you are feeling empowered through your senses, and really starting to recognize and notice the things that you might need for your system to help feel more engaged and connected, socially engaged. We shared a little bit about the polyvagal theory being such a powerful theory to conceptualize when we think about that social engagement. So I'm calm, I'm regulated, I'm in a social experience, I'm smiling, I'm engaged, my nervous system level is at a state where I'm able to engage in a really calm and regulated way. So I think just the considerations of what is right for you. And really, sensory regulation is a beautiful personal journey. There is always this like trial and error of finding the right combination of tools that might work for you, finding those things that you can have in your back pocket and know that that can come forward to be such a beautiful supporter. So whether it's through those grounding exercises, that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mindful breathing, like the box breathing that we reviewed today, or engaging with any sort of heavy work, these practices can really help you feel empowered to identify some of those tools that might be your preferred combination of strategies that might work for you, and really support you with meeting your neurological threshold and truly enhancing your sensory experience throughout your day. So thank you so much for joining on this episode of Sensory Empower, the podcast. I hope you found this curious as we dive a little bit more into different sensory preferences and some strategies, and I am going to be having some really fun opportunities to support the community with diving in even deeper with a 7-day challenge that will be occurring soon. So stay tuned for a really fun way to help you enhance your sensory experience, your understanding of what strategies might be supported. And until next time, stay grounded, stay connected, and take good care of yourself. Thank you for joining me on this sensory adventure through Sensory Empower, the podcast. Remember, empowerment begins with awakening your senses. Subscribe now and embark on a journey of self-discovery and transformation. Until next time, may your senses guide you towards a life filled with peace, joy, and empowerment. Because true empowerment begins with embracing your senses.